My fellow white man, your rage is real and it's justified. Your son or daughter could be stabbed in the chest by a black, and the world would reward him. White man, you have been emasculated and silenced because you have allowed the emotionality of women to dominate our culture and politics. So this message is not for white women. Anthony Carmelo is a black tarantula head who stabbed a white boy in the chest, killing him. He's been celebrated as a hero. His bail was reduced from $1 million to $250K by a black female judge. And online fundraising not only got him released, his family bought a new house with the money. A savage black killer has been rewarded for murdering a white teenager named Austin Metcalf. This was my final straw. I make no apologies for what I'm about to say. Black terrorism must come to an end. To respectable blacks, I'm not talking about you. Young black men are roughly 3% of our population in America, but commit upwards of 50% of murders. The greatest danger to blacks and whites is young blacks. In 2020, blacks with BLM burned down our cities and terrorized us with no consequences. George Floyd, a dangerous criminal who held a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach, was celebrated as a hero. Jacob Couch was slashed in the neck with a hatchet by Daniel Michael, a ghetto savage. No one is saying Jacob Couch's name. If the situation were reversed, blacks would be rioting. Linda Stoltzfus, a young Amish girl, was raped and murdered by Justo Smoker, a ghetto savage. You don't know her name, but you should. White lives matter. There is a global war on the European white race. Europe is being decimated and conquered by Islamists and Africans who live for free off of the hard work of white Europeans. Cowardly white European leaders celebrate this. In the UK, a white woman was arrested for silently praying outside of an abortion clinic, but Islamists are allowed to blast their prayers on loudspeakers in public.
But really bringing our communities together.
Even in Minnesota, whites have to wake up to the Islamic call to prayer on loudspeakers. Sweden is now the rape capital of Europe because it is no longer a white country. Islamic and African murders and rapes are swept under the rug. They get released from jail as white men are arrested for hate crimes such as saying, speak English.
But apparently during some conversations between yourself, apparently you have alleged, we weren't here, so I don't know if you said it, but you've alleged to say, speak English.
Whites have been systematically villainized for decades. I'm sure you've noticed that books like White Trash by Nancy Eisenberg are bestsellers. The white European race is the only race on Earth that's literally being culturally and physically erased. We are roughly 6% of the global population. We are the only race that's expected to forcibly integrate foreign cultures into our lives. Japan, China, and India have no diversity quotas for white people. The very people that preach white hatred wish to live among us. Every brown third world country is filled with people desperately trying to get to white countries. Any blacks in America who have money immediately flee their own kind to live among whites. For example, Barack Hussein Obama and Big Mike live in the most exclusive gated white area on Earth. Remember the shows The Jeffersons and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Where did they live? We have watched black filthy hip-hop infect the minds of our white youth. Our beloved European fairy tale characters and historical figures like Anne Boleyn are replaced. Almost every film on Netflix, Hulu, etc. created after 2018 includes interracial couples. This is not about inclusion or representation of reality. It's about erasing and undermining the white European race. You'll usually see a white girl with a black man. Our Super Bowl halftime shows haven't included a white artist in years. In over 90% of all advertising, in spite only being 13% of the population, blacks are represented. If aliens were to watch our modern media, they would assume that whites are a small minority. Whites lose their spots in universities to underqualified ethnic people. Here in Utah, the Utah Jazz basketball team offers scholarships to anyone who's brown, but not white. Too bad, poor white kids with a dream. White-created corporations have been forced to hire unqualified blacks. Liberals cried out that blacks are underrepresented, for example, in the flight attendant industry. But let's break that down. Blacks are roughly 13% of the population. Of that 13%, what percentage is interested in being a flight attendant? Of that percentage, how many are qualified to be a flight attendant? 1% at best? Yet modern airlines seek to have at least 50% Black and minority representation. This observation applies to film, award shows, and entertainment in general. A small representation of Blacks in any industry or media would not be racism. It would simply be a realistic representation of our population. Acknowledging that the pool of talent in any sector is predominantly white is forbidden. The world is obsessed with minorities, yet globally, the white European race is one of the smallest minorities. The Associated Press has announced that they will capitalize the word black, but not white. Our European ancestors civilized the planet. The world owes every high standard of living to the European men who came before us. They should be praised, acknowledged, and thanked for their achievements. Instead, they are ridiculously villainized. They created the countries where everyone wants to live. Nobody wants to move to India or the Congo. And before you cry, colonization, just remember that they just discovered a new temple in Guatemala that was primarily used for child sacrifices. Inner city blacks in America should thank whites for going to work to pay for their food, housing, healthcare, and enabling their slothful lifestyle of loitering and mischief. The phrase, "it's okay to be white," has been labeled hate speech by the Anti-Defamation League. My fellow white men, this says it all. Demographics determine destiny. This is our moment to wake up or face the decimation of our people and our way of life. South Africa and Rhodesia are modern examples of what happens when whites are villainized and essentially stripped of any power. Both countries immediately turned into violent, dangerous holes as soon as the whites were persecuted. Nelson Mandela and his wife were terrorists, by the way. Whites are being murdered in South Africa right now as blacks in the government literally sing out loud, "Kill the Boer," meaning kill the whites.
We won, and we shall sing this song.
Mark my words, this will be the end result for whites in our countries once we are the minority. Our countries will turn to once we're on the fringes and stripped of our culture and influence. Yet the misery that ensues will be blamed on us. So what is the solution? A race war? Absolutely not. The solution is a strong, bold, and unapologetic public awakening of the white man, declaring that we won't take it anymore. We should refuse any forced integration, hiring, or diversity quotas in our lives. The solution is also for respectable blacks to call out their own aggressively and incessantly. Freedom of association must be respected and restored for whites the way it is for blacks. We deserve to have our own private schools, universities, and communities. We must no longer flinch when we are called white supremacists, racists, or Nazis. What we are is race realists and behavioralists. We objectively notice patterns and plan our lives accordingly. What they often call racism is simply being safe. And yes, forbidden biological and scientific studies demonstrate that there are in fact differences in the human race that should be studied. Whites of all backgrounds and political affiliations have thought exactly what I've said in this video so far. The entire real estate market in America and Europe is filled with people looking for a safe area or a nice neighborhood. But that is based on one thing: whites. Safe areas or nice neighborhoods are white areas. It's just that liberals and the biking community refuse to acknowledge this publicly. The value of real estate in this country is dependent on one thing: race. It's okay to say that. White men, please stop being cowards. Please stop submitting to the bleeding heart emotionality of women. It's in their nature. They seek to be compassionate and caring, and God bless them for it. But the liberal white woman is quite literally the most dangerous demographic on planet Earth. Their irrational feelings have no place in race realism and the defense of the Western European values that made America great. And yes, America has a very clear and specific cultural heritage that's based on European Christian values. We are not, in fact, a melting pot. Any success anyone sees in this country, whether whites or ethnic folks, comes from an almost full assimilation into the European legacy culture that created America. To quote Theodore Roosevelt, "There is no room in this country for hyphenated Americanism. The one absolutely certain way of bringing this nation to ruin, of preventing all possibility of its continuing to be a nation at all, would be to permit it to become a tangle of squabbling nationalities." Diversity is not a strength. Unity is a strength. My fellow white man, you may not have the courage to openly say what I'm saying right now, but eventually you will be forced to do so. Hopefully it won't be after Dequarius or Lamondre stab your son or daughter in the heart and get a new house for doing so. I know deep inside, every white man who watches this agrees with me, conservative or not. For those of you who actually have a spine, speak up. And if you're not ready to do that, share this video. Rise up, white man.